This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some major updates to share with you. With inflation hot at 9.1%, the White House is downplaying it, saying it's not as bad. I'll play you the video clip of what the White House economic advisor is saying. Then I'll play you the Republican perspective of what they're saying about inflation, what could be done, how the White House is not handling it too well. When it comes to stimulus, there is a July 22nd deadline for stimulus payments. We'll also talk about the additional $500 direct payments going out. And with the inflation report going out, Joe Manchin pumps the brakes, saying that the Build Back Better needs to be scrubbed better. Not looking too good there, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So average American worker has lost $3,400 in annual wages under Biden thanks to inflation, and the average family in which both parents work has lost $6,800 in annual wages under Biden, and the inflation rate, which is now 9.1%, which is crazy. That means if someone made $20,000, that $3,400 of that is just gone. So they really made just $16,600, which is insane to think about. What they're saying here is there are plenty of families that's more than their budget for the entire year. I can't emphasize enough how much this is really crushing consumers. It's truly crushing the middle class. And then the White House spokesperson says these garbage lines like the economy is in transition. Transition in the same sense, I suppose, that an iceberg transitioned into the Titanic, or transitioned the Titanic into a submarine. Yeah, pretty crazy. I'm going to play you that video clip of what the White House advisor said there later on in the video. But first, let's talk about this big package, which is starting to fizzle out again. So Democrats push reconciliation as tool to fight inflation, basically saying this is the tool. The reconciliation bill is going to fight inflation. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin has other ideas about that since he's the main person holding all this up. So Senator Joe Manchin cools on spending negotiations, citing fears of inflation fire. An inflation report deals blow to Schumer-Manchin budget talks. So basically, once that 9.1% came out, Joe Manchin backed off a lot. So Manchin pumps brakes. Bill needs to be scrubbed much better. So after that report came out, I think it pretty much put the nail in the coffin on this big reconciliation deal. I don't think it's going to happen. They weren't really even that close to begin with. So here's what Joe Manchin said here. We know what we can pass is basically drug pricing okay on Medicare. Is there any more we can do? I don't know, but I'm very cautious. And I'm going to make sure that I have every input on scrubbing everything humanly possible that could be considered inflammatory. Inflammatory in the sense that it would add more inflation or add more to inflation. So Joe Manchin basically pulling the brakes, not looking good when it comes to the reconciliation package. I think once that inflation report came out, it just basically, he's just not going to do it. I don't think he was going to do it to begin with, but this is probably a good scapegoat or a good exit ramp for Joe Manchin to say, hey, inflation's too high, going to have to back out. So not looking too good there. When it comes to the stimulus payments deadline, who can apply before July 22nd? So this is going on in the state of Minnesota, with payments of $750 going out to a lot of different workers, long-term care and home care workers, healthcare workers, retail workers, public transit workers. So $750 payments going out there as long as all these types of workers apply before July 22nd. And then 1,919 Johnson County residents receive $1,400 stimulus payments. This is Johnson County, Iowa. So they got $1,400 checks there. And then working Americans set to get up to $500 in direct payments thanks to a deal getting struck. See if you're eligible. So this is going on in Massachusetts. State Senate and House leaders in Massachusetts have agreed to a framework on a tax relief package. So this is late last week. Direct payments of $250 for single filers and $500 for couples going out to people in Massachusetts. And back to inflation and food prices and what the White House and Republicans are saying about this. So grocery prices see largest increase since 1979 as inflation is higher than expected. So inflation on the rise, getting worse. What is the White House doing about it? Well, the White House assurances on inflation spark backlash from frustrated swing state Democrats. So I'm going to play this video clip right here. Not the best way to go about it, kind of downplaying these inflation numbers. Meanwhile, millions of Americans across the country are feeling these numbers, and it's hurting a lot. But take a look at this video clip right here. Let me know what you think.
Well, look, a couple points on today's report, as you just said. The first is, it's backward looking, and it doesn't reflect what we've seen over the last 30 days, which is a significant decline in gas prices, down about 40 cents. That June report, about half of it was driven by energy prices, and we've seen moderation since. But the second point is that in the core, inflation remains too high, which is why we need action. And I just want to underscore, if there's one thing to take away from this report, it's that there is more urgency now than ever in Congress moving to pass a bill to try to build more domestic semiconductors, to try to bring down the price of those goods. You see across this report things like used cars and new vehicles, those prices holding up. That is not principally driven by demand. It's driven by supply and constrained supply. We know how to solve that. We should have solved that months ago, but we now have a moment. We need to do that. If there's any takeaway from this report, it should be that.
Although that brings us right back to the circular argument, Brian, that more spending is not what you typically do in the face of high inflation. How do we break out of that circle?
No, look, I think you have to look at the unique situation that we're in as an economy and think about how do we build more supply? How do we increase the productive capacity of our economy so that we actually can supply more goods, bring prices down? We know the answer on semiconductors exactly. We need more supply of those goods. You were just talking about housing, same issue. Obviously, mortgage rates are going to increase as the Fed continues to tighten. But as we do that, we need to keep home builders building supply, because we know that at core, the housing issue is a lack of affordable supply. It's been a decade or more in the making, but as we move through this transition, providing incentives, for example, for builders to continue to build affordable homes, as we do so, that's out of the traditional box of fiscal, Keynesian fiscal stimulus. It's more about how do we actually invest to build more capability here in the country that will help bring down prices in areas like semiconductors and housing.
Brian, I am very concerned about the semiconductor bill. Pat Gelsinger, who's really been the lead, who's the CEO of Intel, I know he's getting very nervous about Ohio. I don't blame him. Is there any way that the president can say, you know what, we're stripping everything, no more Christmas tree, let's just get this done, the Republicans agree, and you get a very big victory?
Well, let me be really clear about this, and we're in constant communication with Pat and other CEOs in the industry as well. What we want is to see Congress resolve difficulties. Anything that they can't resolve, let's set that aside and let's get something done. Let's get something done right now. The most unhelpful thing is people putting ultimatums. It was unhelpful for Senator McConnell to say that we're going to hold this hostage to unrelated vehicles. We need to move beyond all of that. We need to agree where we can agree, and we need to get something done. I think that's possible. It's possible right now. This report provides further reinforcement of that. That's certainly the message that the president is communicating in his conversations on this topic, and that we're communicating as well.
Well, see, Brian, I always like to agree with you. When it does happen, it's really, I don't want to say seminal, but terrific. Now,
it doesn't always happen, but it's fun to do.
All fair in love and war. Okay, apparel. There is the biggest glut of apparel that this country's ever seen. You have both Walmart and Target saying that there's too much apparel in the system. I deal with the top 5 retailers. They all have too much apparel. How the heck can apparel be up in this? And the answer is that this is not right, that these numbers were taken before the glut developed. I think the same thing with food. I mean, we've had a dramatic decline in corn, in wheat, in soy. How come no one's paying attention to the fact that in the last 6 weeks, there's been a major change in this country with almost every one of the major things that have hurt us other than gasoline, and even gasoline's come down a bit. Why are we focused on these numbers and not what's about to happen?
Well, look, I mean, I think the numbers come out, and we're in a fast-moving period, and so it's understandable for people to focus on it. But absolutely, wheat down 30% since the relative time frame. Gas down about 8%, oil down almost 20% during that period. And I think that you are seeing these cyclical shifts. We're in communications with similar on the retailer side, and there wasn't an inventory overbuild, and that is moving its way through the system. So I think that's why I think you have to look at these numbers and understand where they are outdated, but also understand that inflation in the core is too high, which is why we're focused on what we can do here this month. This is an opportunity for us to get legislation done this month, not to put it off. There's no reason why we need to put it off for months.
What are your thoughts on that? Could Brian Dees, the economic advisor, he had said it a better way? Did he do a good job of communicating what needs to be done with inflation, what's going on? Let me know your thoughts on that. Now, Republicans slam Biden over inflation hitting another 40-year high. Take a look at the Republican perspective and the reaction to this inflation reaction as well. Take a look.
The last time we had inflation numbers like these, the Federal Reserve was raising interest rates about a full percentage point at a time. Growing talk, it's going to have to up the ante to do so again. Jared Bernstein, the White House economic advisor, with us now. Jared, are you worried about that it will have to require the Fed to dramatically raise rates now?
Well, the Fed is already raising rates in an appropriately aggressive manner. I mean, when President Biden renominated Chair Powell to the Fed, he has since, of course, been reappointed, and many others on that slate are now over there on the Fed board. He has full faith in that pivot that they're engaged in. And by the way, those of us who have looked at monetary history know that it's actually kind of unusual for a president to be so supportive of a Fed in a rate hiking cycle like this one.
I don't know about that, Jared. Jimmy Carter was fully supportive, but Paul Volcker had complete faith in him. Of course, Paul Volcker's aggressive rate increases ultimately did help the economy and did get inflation under control, but it also contributed to Jimmy Carter's defeat, right?
Yeah, so anyway, that's a great point, and you're very correct about that. I was thinking more about Richard Nixon and Arthur Burns and some others who were pressuring back then. And I think the point is that the president has consistently leaned into the Fed as the first and foremost inflation fighter. So simple answer to your question, their pivot in this regard is welcome and very much understood as part of the solution to this problem.
All right, and the Fed, like your boss, the president, and the administration, missed it on the severity of this inflation, that it would be transitory. It turned out that it was not. I know it is what it is, but what can you do now? Is it all up to the Fed?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what we can do and what we are doing. No, it's not all up to the Fed. They obviously are implementing their interest rate tools, quantitative tightening tools, but we have a lot we can do and are doing. So one thing that's not in today's report is the decline in prices at the pump. Prices at the pump are now down 40 cents off their peak from mid-June to today. And you don't see that in the June report. That's an 8% decline in gas prices. That'll show up in the July report. That directly relates to some of the supply measures this president has authorized, particularly the release of 240 million barrels of oil released from the Strategic Reserve. Now, we talked about that a while ago.
That's very true. That's very true, Jared. But I mean, even taking out food and energy prices and looking at the core inflation report, it was still running at about a 5.9% clip, which is also in and out of about a 40-year high. So I'm wondering, with or without gas in the picture, I mean, are you clinging to something that could be short-lived anyway? And the inflation problem is now broad-based, way beyond.
Well, let me get to the core. Let me get to the core in a second, because I agree with you. It is much too highly elevated as well. Unacceptably high was the words the president used this morning. But I just want to be clear that on the Strategic Reserve, we talked about that weeks, if not months ago. That's actively in play right now. That is, every day 1 million barrels are coming into the market. Now, it's 100 million barrels a day in a global market, but 1% on the margin in a tightly supplied commodity like this makes a difference. Okay, the core. Here is where we really need Congress to work with us. The kinds of budgetary pressures that households face in the core, prescription drugs, utility bills, health insurance premiums, vehicles, by the way, where Congress could act tomorrow on the CHIPS bill, something that the Senate supported in a bipartisan manner a while ago. I mean, they all agree on the importance of domestic microprocessor production.
Are you saying more spending is the answer?
I'm saying more investment is the answer. More investment, in production.
Is spending, right? And that might or might not be the solution. But past spending efforts have not really helped this. It's actually worsened it, right?
You raise a really important distinction, and I appreciate your doing so, because there is a big difference between sending checks to households, whether they're the emergency checks from the rescue plan or whether they're unemployment checks, which you don't need as much of when you have 3.6% unemployment, and investing in chip production, investing in child and elder care, investing in our nation's infrastructure. All of those improve the economy's supply side, and that's a plus for taking down inflation.
What are your thoughts there? So I guess from the Republican perspective, it's also easy to point fingers since they're not the ones in control as well. But what's going on here? What do you make of all this? Is it going to get better? Have we peaked? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. And to hopefully cheer you up a bit from all this grim news, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, I love both feelings, my sticks. Be right. And guys, if you want to be fashionable, be fashionable. Do whatever you want to do now, yes, or never. Because that if you do it now, you'll do it. And you have the experience about it. So that's all I wanted to tell for you today. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your time and support. If you want to see more videos like this where I get straight to the point, let you know exactly what's going on, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to check out any of my other videos on my other channels, you could click up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.